The Teacher of Boundless Love. Long, long ago in ancient India, in a fine house filled with silks and jewels, there lived a young man named Araka. He had everything anyone could wish for: delicious food, beautiful clothes, and servants to care for him. But young Araka wasn't happy. He would sit by his window and wonder, is there something more important than all of this? One morning, Araka made up his mind. He gave away all his fine things, put on simple orange robes, and set off walking toward the great Himalayan mountains. "I will find what truly matters," he said. He climbed higher and higher, past rushing rivers and tall trees, until he found a beautiful clearing beside a crystal-clear mountain lake surrounded by wildflowers. Araka sat by the lake and closed his eyes. He thought about every person he had ever met, the rich and the poor, the kind and the unkind. And to each one, he sent a warm wish from his heart: may you be happy. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. As he did this, something wonderful happened. A warm golden light began to glow all around him, like sunshine coming from inside his heart. Word of the glowing young teacher spread far and wide. People came from distant villages to learn from Araka. Soon, a whole community of followers gathered around him in the mountains. An older disciple with a grey beard said, "Teacher, how do we find this golden light too?" Araka smiled warmly. "It begins with 4 simple things," he said. Loving kindness for all beings. Compassion for those who suffer. Joy when others are happy. And calmness when things are hard. The next morning, Araka led his followers to the lake. He knelt beside the grass and pointed to a tiny dewdrop sparkling on a blade of grass. "See this little drop," he said. "When the sun rises, it will vanish. Our lives are just like this dewdrop, beautiful but brief. That is why we must fill every moment with love, not waste it on anger or selfishness." The disciples watched the dewdrop shimmer and understood. Day after day, Araka and his followers practiced filling their hearts with love for every living thing, from the tiniest ant to the mightiest elephant. And as they did, magical things began to happen. Wild deer would come and rest beside them without any fear. Birds would land on their shoulders and sing. Even snakes would glide peacefully past. The whole forest seemed to glow with warmth and friendship wherever Araka and his followers sat a day. Then one starry night, as Araka sat in deep meditation, his love grew and grew until it was bigger than the mountains, wider than the sky, deeper than the ocean. He felt love for every creature in the whole world, above, below, and everywhere in between. His golden glow blazed so brightly that it lit up the entire mountainside. His disciples watched in awe as their teacher's love became truly boundless, without any edge or limit at all. And so, the great teacher Araka spent the rest of his days spreading love and kindness to every corner of the world. His love was like a mighty river that swept away all anger, all jealousy, and all fear, leaving only warmth behind. When his time on earth was done, his boundless love carried him gently to the highest heaven. And even today, his simple lesson lives on: fill your heart with love for all, and no room will be left for anything unkind. Moral: fill your heart with love for all living things, and there will be no room left for anger, fear, or unkindness. The smallest gift. Long ago, in a beautiful city in ancient India, a wise old hermit and his fellow hermits wandered from village to village, teaching kindness and compassion. The wise hermit had gentle twinkling eyes and a long white beard, and everyone who met him felt peaceful and happy. One sunny morning, the hermits arrived at the gates of a grand city where colorful banners and flowers decorated every street. It was the Festival of Giving. The people of the city were excited to see the holy hermits. During the Festival of Giving, everyone tried to give the most generous gifts they could. A wealthy merchant stepped forward first, his gold necklaces gleaming in the sun. "Behold," he announced loudly, puffing out his chest. "I bring 10 trays of pure gold coins for the hermit." The crowd gasped and clapped as servants carried the heavy golden trays forward. The merchant smiled proudly, looking around to make sure everyone was watching. After the merchant, more wealthy people came forward with grand gifts. One brought rolls of the finest silk. Another carried a chest overflowing with sparkling jewels, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. Each giver tried to outdo the last, calling out the value of their gifts for all to hear. The hermits accepted each offering with a gentle nod and a kind word of thanks. Watching from the edge of the crowd, hidden behind the legs of grown-ups, was a small boy named Kavi, with big hopeful eyes and a patched orange tunic. Little Kavi wanted so badly to give a gift too. But he was very poor. He looked down at his hands. In one hand, he held a single small handful of rice that he had saved from his own meal. In the other, he clutched a tiny yellow wildflower he had picked that morning by the roadside. His heart beat fast. "It is so little," he whispered to himself, his eyes filling with tears. "But it is all I have, and I want to give it with all my heart." Taking a deep breath, he stepped out from behind the crowd. Kavi walked slowly toward the wise hermit, his bare feet shuffling on the dusty ground. The wealthy merchant saw the ragged little boy and burst out laughing. "Look at this beggar boy," he sneered. "What could you possibly have to give? Go away, child, you are embarrassing yourself." Other rich people in the crowd laughed too, pointing at Kavi's patched tunic and bare feet. But Kavi did not turn back. With trembling hands, he held out his handful of rice and his little wildflower toward the wise hermit, his eyes shining with pure love. The wise hermit looked at the little boy and his humble offering, and his eyes filled with warmth and deep respect. He stood up slowly, and to everyone's great surprise, he bowed low before little Kavi. Then, with the greatest care, he received the handful of rice and the wildflower as if they were the most precious treasures in all the world. He cupped the rice gently in his palms and held the flower close to his heart. The crowd fell completely silent. Even the wealthy merchant stopped laughing, his mouth hanging open in shock. The wise hermit placed his hand gently on Kavi's head and spoke to the silent crowd in a clear, warm voice. "My friends, today I received many gifts, gold, silk, and jewels. But this child's gift is the greatest of them all." The crowd gasped. The merchant sputtered, "Greater than my 10 trays of gold?" The hermit smiled. The wealthy gave from their abundance what they would never miss. But this child gave everything he had. His rice was his meal, his flower was his only treasure. A gift given with a pure, loving heart is worth more than mountains of gold given for show. Tears rolled down many cheeks in the crowd. The wealthy merchant hung his head in shame, realizing he had given his gold only to be praised, not out of true kindness. One by one, the people began to bow to little Kavi, who stood blushing and smiling shyly. From that day on, the people of the city always remembered the wise hermit's words. They learned that every gift, no matter how small, matters deeply when it comes from a heart full of love. And little Kavi, the poorest boy in the city, had given the greatest gift of all. Moral: every gift given with love matters, no matter how small. A pure heart is worth more than all the gold in the world. The friend who forgot. Long ago in ancient India, there lived 2 wealthy treasurers who were the best of friends. Sanka lived in the great city of Rajagaha and was known far and wide for his kindness and generosity. His dear friend Pilia lived in the city of Benares and was equally rich. Together, they had a fortune worth 80 crores of gold, and their friendship was the talk of both kingdoms. But one dark day, misfortune struck Pilia. A terrible flood washed away his warehouses, and dishonest servants stole what remained. Within weeks, the once mighty treasurer of Benares had nothing left, not even a single coin. With nowhere else to turn, Pilia journeyed all the way to Rajagaha and knocked on his friend Sanka's door, dressed in rags and trembling with shame. Sanka did not hesitate for even a moment. He embraced his old friend warmly, brought him inside, and gave him fresh clothes and a feast fit for a king. Then, with a smile as wide as the river Ganges, Sanka divided his entire fortune in 2: half of all his gold, half of his lands, half of his cattle, and even half of his servants. "A true friend shares everything," Sanka said. "What is mine is yours." Pilia wept with gratitude and returned to Benares a wealthy man once more. Years passed peacefully. But then, cruel fate turned its eye upon Sanka. A great fire swept through his warehouses, and a drought ruined his farmlands. One by one, his riches vanished like morning dew. Soon, the once generous treasurer of Rajagaha found himself with empty hands and an empty home. His wife looked at him with worried eyes. "Do not fear," said Sanka. "We shall go to Benares." Pilya is our friend, he will surely help us, just as I helped him. Sanka and his wife traveled for many days across dusty roads and through scorching heat, until at last they reached the gleaming gates of Benares. Tired, hungry, and covered in dust, they made their way to Pilya's grand mansion. Sanka's heart swelled with hope as he saw the golden domes and marble pillars built with the very fortune he had once shared. Surely his old friend would remember his kindness. But when Pilya saw his old friend standing at his door, something cold flickered in his eyes. He did not embrace Sanka. He did not invite him inside. Instead, he wrinkled his nose and said, "What do you want?" When Sanka humbly explained his misfortune, Pilya turned to a servant and snapped, "Give him half a measure of rice bran, the stuff we feed the pigs." Sanka's wife gasped in shock. Rice bran. For the man who had given half his fortune. Sanka quietly accepted the small bag, bowed his head, and walked away, his heart breaking with every step. As Sanka and his wife sat weeping by the roadside, a young man came running toward them. It was one of Sanka's former servants, the very one he had given to Pilya years ago. "Master Sanka," the servant cried, falling to his knees. "I could never forget your kindness." The loyal servant gathered his fellow workers and together they went before the king of Magadha, telling him everything, how Sanka had given half his fortune to save Pilya, and how Pilya had repaid that kindness with pig feed. The king was furious. The king summoned Pilya and ordered that all his wealth be given to Sanka as punishment for his terrible ingratitude. But Sanka, true to his kind nature, raised his hand and said, "Your Majesty, I do not wish to take everything. I only ask for what I once gave him, nothing more." The king marveled at Sanka's noble heart and granted his wish. And so, Sanka's fortune was restored not through greed or revenge, but through the power of generosity, loyalty, and a heart that remained kind even when the world was cruel. Moral: true generosity asks for nothing in return, and kindness always finds its way back home.